Whether it's bacon at breakfast or pork chops for dinner, Iowans like pork. It's probably no surprise that most of us eat more than 51 pounds of pork each year. And consumers who eat meat still care about how that pig was raised from its first day to its last. Hi, I'm Lori Johns. I grew up on a north central Iowa pig farm. Although my family still farms, and I know a lot of farmers, I don't call myself a farmer. But I'm an animal lover. And you know, the two aren't mutually exclusive. Not for me, and not for Iowa's family farmers. I've seen farmers wade through all kinds of weather 24/7 to take care of pigs, putting their animals' welfare before their own. It's a big responsibility, caring for livestock. Even though we live in the biggest pig farming state in the nation, most of us have no idea what it takes to raise them. We understand even less about keeping pigs healthy, comfortable, and safe from their first day to last. It takes a team. Today in ChopTalk, you'll meet some members of that team as I talk to a livestock trucker and an animal science expert at Iowa State. I learned the compassionate care of today's pigs begins long before they reach the farm gate. I'm here with Ty Rosburg of Rosburg Livestock, and your specialty is you have a bunch of trucks and you move a bunch of livestock. So you move livestock from farm to market. Mm-hmm. So many people are unaware. I mean, they might see a truck going by because we've got the major thoroughfares, you know. And do your trucks mostly focus on Iowa, or do you go across the country now?
We run the Midwest, down into Oklahoma. We take hogs down, bring pigs back. But we're all over the country. And that's something that's been brought out before in the industry, that, you know, everybody likes their bacon and their pork chop, and they don't all realize where it comes from. And the farmer, he's at home at the farm taking care of things, so he's not really always visible. So thanks to programs like yours, it's bringing that visibility out. But truckers, we're out there every day. We meet them on the highway. So if we've got a smile on our face, that's a positive. We're waving at them. That's a positive example of the industry. They know what we're hauling. We're livestock. And a lot of times them pigs' noses are sticking out. Pigs are insatiably curious. They got to always be checking. But my drivers know the difference between a pig that's curious and a pig that's probably too warm and we need to do something, just water them down or something to that nature.
Right.
It's like sitting at a truck stop. We got a garden hose hooking up to the trailer, and I walk over, "What you doing? You giving them water?" "Well, actually, we're getting their backs cool and getting them wet. When we get down the road, it cools them down." "Oh, that's a great idea." Well, so it's those little things that the public get to see that we're doing every day then, you know. And obviously we ain't watering them this time of the year, but we do in the summer. And this time of the year, we've got our panel kits. They might come up and see us sliding panels in and out, controlling the temperature. You know, we got to keep an eye on what way the wind's blowing. For the main miles of our transport, if the wind's coming out of the north and we're heading west, obviously the right side of our trailer needs to be boarded up better than the left side. You still want to keep air moving out of that trailer, but you don't want a bunch of that cold coming in. You don't keep enough air moving out of there, the humidity will build up, and then when you stop, the heat of the hogs builds up, or even the little bitty feeder pigs. That's a lot of little heater motors in there, so they get it warm pretty fast, and then that moisture, the condensation will build on the ceiling or the floors that are above them, and then when they stop, it gets warm quick, and then it drips on them. So it's just like it could start a rain in there. So we got to watch it close to keep an eye, so we can keep control of that humidity factor as well as the temperature factor in there.
So that's something I hadn't even thought of. Is like there's so many weather patterns you're driving through, even from one side of the state to the next can be.
I bet. Yeah, you could be driving through a blizzard that's halfway across Iowa, and you're coming back from, say, Monmouth, and you're coming back over to western Iowa to load or unload. You could be driving through the middle of a blizzard. When we haul out of Oklahoma in particular, you can be down there loading in 60 degrees, 70 degree weather this time of the year, and you get up here and it's below zero, you know, and you got to be able to pay attention to that, know what to look for.
No, there's so many things I wouldn't have ever thought of that even.
Yeah, there is a lot to the transporting of the animals. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about the new innovations in trucking, the autonomous truck that don't need a driver. I said, boy, when they develop that truck that can get out and check my pigs or my cattle, that would be fantastic. I think that's a ways off.
I can't imagine that. Mm-hmm. How fast does technology move? Does that industry move when it comes to that?
So we build trailers a whole lot different than we did. Our ramps are longer to decrease the angle or the slope of it. And we put extra gates inside there that help direct their traffic in there. So there isn't a bunch of circling. They just walk right up to where they got to be. And there's different compartments in there. We have different sized compartments, obviously, for the different size levels. But we try to break up the compartments as much as possible so that they don't pile on each other if it get too cold, or they don't Kind of helps break down the pecking order. Sometimes if you're on a longer trip, they might just start fighting and wrestling around a little bit. And it's nothing that your kids don't do when you're on a long trip. Think about when you went on vacation. The kids get to fighting in the back just because they're restless, and the hogs aren't any different. So our objective with hogs is to control the space. Floor space is very important. And I actually think that that's more important. Just think about your favorite significant other. On a very hot day, you don't even want to hug. Oh, just leave me alone. It's too hot. Well, hogs ain't any different. So space is very important, and they like to lay down when they're in transit and just rest. So we just got to make sure that they've got adequate floor space so they can be comfortable in transit. And that's the objective, is to get them wherever they are.
Well, and it's hard because that's the side of the business. We all know, and I'm a farm kid, but it's for people who don't farm, it's hard for them to understand. It's trying to do right by the animal, and they do have a purpose.
I'd like to make that obvious that we do everything we can to look after these hogs or cattle, whatever the case may be. But in our case, our hogs, that's 90% of what I haul. They matter to us.
When it comes to just making sure that, there are disease prevention is another part of it too, because you go from farm to farm. There's certain rules in place nowadays, and that's been an evolution too.
The biosecurity aspect has become huge. We've got more washes. We've got fancier setups at our washes. We actually have what we call bakers, and it's like a huge blow dryer. Just imagine sticking a huge blow dryer inside a building in the back of your trailer, and it dries that trailer completely. A lot of the vets will tell me that a dry, dirty trailer is actually more biosecure than a clean, wet one, because it takes moisture to grow life. We're taught that in biology in 6th grade, I think. But so moisture is what we're trying to do after we wash a trailer, especially when we're going to haul the little pigs, because they got a whole life ahead of them, and we like them to start it out healthy. So we'll have these bakers, as we call them, and we put the trailers in there and get them all dried out. And then the next morning, or even yet that day, we'll load pigs. But then there's also the challenges that come from going to farm to farm. We actually wear disposable coveralls a lot now, and little booties that we slide on. We will have a pair of booties that we have on when we get out of the truck and walk across the farmer's drive, and we'll probably wear that pair into the trailer. We've got little rear access doors. We call them our bio doors that we get in the back of the trailer. And most of our customers actually don't want us coming out of the trailer at all. The farmer will bring them right up to the back of the trailer, and we're building more new gates just to keep the hogs from coming back off the trailer onto their property or in their load and chute or anything like that. That's to help keep cross-transmission at bay. And then when we get back out of that trailer, we'll put a new clean pair of booties on to walk back to our truck, and little things like that. Showering, most of the truck stops or truck washes that we go to have showers. I built them when I built my new shop here. I got a shower, and I got washing machines here. The guys can throw their stuff in here, and we don't even like to take stuff home, because you don't know for sure where you've been. It ain't even always visible to the human eye of what we see. And then the next person stepped in it, took it somewhere else, might have took it to a beauty shop, and some farmer that didn't have a disease on his farm, his wife went and got her hair cut that day and come home, and she puts her shoes right next to his. Guess what? He just took a new disease into his hog barn the next morning.
And that's why they ask you, when you're a reporter, they're like, when's the last time you were on a hog farm?
You bet.
Because that matters.
Excellent point. If you've ever flown overseas, and when you come back, they ask you, have you ever been to a farm? That's why they're asking those things. They're wanting to make sure that no diseases that you don't even realize you're carrying, you're bringing back. So we're really doing that to protect the American herd and America's food source. So that's what we're actually trying to do. That's why they ask you that. I don't have to be a biologist or a veterinarian or anything to be a truck driver, but it sure helps to talk to them a lot. To help try to improve my fleet, to do a better job for my customers and for the animals that I care about.
Livestock trucking isn't just about the trucker. It's a team, isn't it?
Yep, exactly.
That team includes experts in animal care and welfare. They bring the latest information to livestock truckers and livestock farmers to make sure that animals stay healthy as they grow. These scientists are ensuring food chain animal comfort because we all want that. I'm here now, just off the Iowa State campus, with Dr. Anna Johnson of Iowa State, professor of animal care, welfare, and science. And you've been here with Iowa State for a while, and you specialize in the care of animals, making sure they have compassionate care, and that keeps them healthy. Tell me a little bit more about your work and how you work with farmers.
You bet, Laurie. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. Delighted to be with you again. We take care of animals every single day of the week, 365. So compassion and focus and animal care is always forefront and center for our livestock producers here in the great state of Iowa.
And, for people who appreciate the final end of it all, maybe at the Iowa State Fair or the pork belly on the stick or these types of things, they love their pork chops, but they have a lot of questions about how pigs are raised today. And since we lead the nation in that, there are a lot of people with a lot of questions, and they're quite a bit removed from pig farming. So that kind of creates a vacuum where misinformation can come in. They probably don't realize how much work it is and how much farmers do care and how much they work with you every day.
Absolutely. And the questions asked by our customers and consumers are very fair. They are intrigued, they're interested, and producers and persons like myself in Extension, we are here to answer those questions. Another great resource actually is the Iowa Farm Animal Care. Iowa is the only state in the whole nation to have an excellent central group that consumers and customers can ask those questions to and get correct, factual, and up-to-date information. And you're right, producers often get the wrong end of the stick. Well, they don't care, they're only in it for the money, and that's so unfair. Our producers are out every single day. They have to prepare for blizzards, the derecho coming through. We've had some really hard hits over 2020, and I tell you, our industry has come together, has supported each other, and we are getting through it successfully.
So they want to know, too, with all of the challenges that this year has been really for everybody, what does go on in the pig barns? I mean, most people will only have exposure to it maybe driving by, and there's so many questions they have. How can they be sure? I mean, what goes on inside a pig barn, and how are you involved in all of that, too?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's busy, right? Is the best way I can describe it. I mean, most of the producers I work with are very early birds. They get up. I know many of my producer friends and colleagues, they go and check the pigs before they have breakfast in the morning. So some of the basics: feed, water, air. I mean, we want to make sure that they are always comfortable, and it's much more pleasant to be in a pig barn in the middle of December than it is to be outside in Iowa, because we keep them nice and toasty. But making sure that though they always have great quality feed, that they always have access to clean and fresh water. So every pen, every pig, every day, we get them up, we interact with them, we check on them. How are they doing? If they're not feeling well, why? What can we do to provide them timely care? So many things that consumers do every single day with their dogs and cats, we do with our pigs. It's just taking care of the pig and making sure that they are thriving and healthy.
And when you think of how important, especially that weather component is for the health and welfare of a pig, the pigs today aren't like the pigs from great-grandpa's day with all the hair and all the fat and that sort of thing. They're leaner, and that temperature really matters.
Absolutely. We have bred our pigs to be more lean, as you note, and that was driven by our consumers. They wanted less fat, right? If you remember several years ago, fat was considered to be bad, and so we listened to that and reshaped the pig. So you're exactly right. They're less hairy, and they're more of a supermodel. They're more lean. And so because of that, we have to be very attentive to that animal and to make sure that we keep them in an environment where they're not, it's like the Goldilocks story. I tell my students, not too hot and not too cold, but just right.
That's right. And that precise nature that comes into today's hog barns versus out on the feedlot or in great-grandpa's day on the pasture with the A-frame houses, all of that old school. It's just so precise. They know everything about a pig.
Oh, absolutely. Our producers are extremely well trained. They always are attending workshops. People don't know this. Our producers do continuing education after college. They attend the conferences. They have online meetings through the Iowa Pork Producers Association, through National Pork, through Iowa Farm Bureau. There's so many different ways to continue to learn, and they are lifelong learners. They want to know what they're doing today is correct and what the industry expects. But this industry never stays still. It's always looking forward, and it's always looking to do better.
Well, tell me about that. There's a certification process that is important that, the best of the best that today's pig farmers seek out. And I know you're involved in that as well.
Absolutely. The main program that our producers subscribe to and are enrolled in is called the Pork Quality Assurance Plus program, or PQA. And that program never sits still. So there is a committee that is continually looking at that program, looking at the markets, looking at the expectations, both at the state level, national and global, to make sure refinements and improvements are continually being added to that as it relates to animal care.
So today's pig farmers, most of them have that certification?
That's exactly right. And many of the packers and our endpoint users are actually asking for our producers to, within 90 days of employment on the farm, to go through and pass the PQA certificate.
Well, tell me why it's important that these animals are comfortable and happy and thriving, because that matters for the consumers on down the road.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's good for the animal, right? I mean, if you start where it's important, and my clients are the animals, we want them to be healthy. We are very aware of being careful of using antibiotics within the industry. We do not overuse them. We use them as needed, which is very important for our customers and our consumers and our health as well. We also want to make sure that an animal that's in a healthy state will produce a wonderful pork chop or a wonderful piece of bacon for our consumer. So taking care of the animals is the right thing to do for the animal, for the producer, and for the consumer.
Yeah, because a consumer could say, hey, I like pork chops. I like, I'm a carnivore.
And I love that.
And I love that. I'm a carnivore. But I do care that these animals had a good life before.
Absolutely. And so producers recognize that, and they are wanting to care for the animals that they have on their farms. That's why they got into farming. They have an inherent interest in the land and in the animals, and it's a noble cause to feed the world, right? I mean, our pork doesn't just stay in the state, it goes out globally across the entire world.
Right, and we've learned one thing this year. It's like the whole world is connected, and it does matter.
Yes, 100%. The world is shrinking every single year, and I think COVID has made that even more of a focus, and the importance of getting animal protein out to countries and people that are needing it, are wanting it, and we can deliver it.
Most definitely. Well, let me ask you, this is the crystal ball question that I come up with. So what do you think is down the road? 10 years or so, what do you think's coming? I don't know whether it's genetics or housing or new things, whether it's transportation or, what do you think's coming?
I really feel that we are going to continue to look into areas as it relates to smart technology. This is becoming really of interest in the pharmaceutical area. I know that genetics are really interested in this. In my space, being interested in animal care and health, detecting a pig that's not doing well earlier, and being able to provide individualized treatment earlier for a successful outcome. I think that whole space is going to get much more focused. So whether that's sensors in the barns or at the pen level, where it's tags on the pigs, I'm not sure exactly how all this is going to play out, but I'm really excited about that technology. And what's really cool about that area is what we call transdisciplinary research. So you can bring in genetics, you can bring in ag engineers, you can bring in veterinarians, you can bring in animal scientists, and you can bring in sociologists to make sure that what we are doing in the barn translates and messages out to the consumer so they understand what this technology is doing to help the pig along the way. And what I really like about that whole space and that whole area is that it allows our producers to have what I call the barn pulse 24/7. So if they're at home and a pig is not doing well, or the barn is cooling down and there's an app on their phone, it will say, hey, there's a problem, and they can go back and attend to that in a timely manner. I mean, how cool is that?
That's just fascinating.
I know. I know. And it's not replacing people. I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be out of a job. Not at all. It's a tool that will improve your job.
It just helps them talk to the pigs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pig talk.
So tell me how that attention to care also matters on the last days. You know, they're ready to go to market, and that matters too, how that process goes smoothly.
Absolutely. So you're exactly right. And, you know, we talked about the PQA program. There's also the TQA, which is the trucker side. And so every aspect of our production system is focused in on animal care and animal welfare. And that's from the point that the little piglet hits the ground all the way through to the end. And that includes the transport. And we know from the science, and we know from production experience and trucker experience, that a smooth and quiet and consistent process with low stress handling is very important for the pig as well as for the end product. So we do everything we possibly can to use the right handling tools, not to move too many pigs at one time. The truckers do a phenomenal job of getting the trailer ready. So on a cool day, we want to make sure it's more closed up, and on a warm day, we want it open and to get some fresh air in for those animals. So it is a chain. Every person knows their role and focuses in on the pig care.
As we said, it's not just the farmer.
It's not just the farmer, not at all. It's the caretakers, it's the farm manager, it's the loading crews that we may have, and of course it's the trucker as well. All are very important in the care of the pig.
Well, Dr. Anna, I'm starting to see why you're such a busy woman.
Thank you very much.
And will continue to be.
I will, and that's what I do. I love it. I love my pigs. I love my producers. I love agriculture. And so thank you very much for your time today.
Animal care experts and veterinarians also work closely with today's pig farmers to make sure that animals have a good diet. And let me tell you, a pig's diet is probably more closely watched than yours or mine. Did you know that a growing pig eats anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds of grain each day? One of the reasons Iowa leads the nation in pig farming hinges on the fact that we also lead the nation in growing the food they eat. As Forrest Gump would say, pig farming and grain farming go together like peas and carrots. I'm Lori Johns. On the next Chop Talk, the sustainability cycle of grain and pig farming in Iowa. Some interesting food for thought.